Following the success of any game, you can find a sea of copycats. I mean, just look at some of these Among Us clones we've gotten. But there does exist a fine line between copying something and being inspired by it, and that's something I found myself trying to differentiate when I first saw Curse of the Dead Gods. At first glance, it looked exceedingly like Hades. I mean, the isometric view, the dodge rolls, the similar traps on the ground. This could very easily lead people to pass it off as a Hades clone. But I think that there's a lot more going on. Enough so that Curse of the Dead Gods can stand on its own 2 feet. So let's talk about it. Before I begin, if you like what you see, be sure to subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and let me know in the comments if there are any games that you'd like to see me talk about. If you want to come hang out with me live, I also stream 3 times a week over at twitch.tv/Triceratops_Jr. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. I feel like the best way to start this is to get those similarities with Hades out of the way, to make it easier to see all the cool systems that the game has brought without getting distracted by other things. Curse of the Dead Gods, or Dead Gods as I'm going to call it because the name is too long, is similar to Hades in 2 main ways: the basic gameplay and the very basic visuals. Both games are top-down isometric views, they feature core roguelike mechanics like the upgrade system and traps, and they both have dodge rolls. And honestly, that's really about it. And that may seem like a lot, but those are features used by a ton of other games, so calling Dead Gods a copy of Hades would honestly just be faulty. There are actually a lot of things that Dead Gods has that are really interesting and pretty original, and those key gameplay mechanics are essential for succeeding in the game. The first big one is the use of torches. Light is extremely important in Dead Gods for the sole reason that whenever you aren't in light, you take double damage, so using your torch to light your way can become really important, especially if you're like me and you are terrible at dodging. But dodging isn't the only way to avoid damage. Dead Gods also has a parry system, which I happen to also suck at, but that's besides the point. The biggest key mechanic is the corruption system. Over the course of a run, you gain corruption by being hit, by progressing from room to room, and by using blood sacrifices to upgrade your character. Whenever the corruption meter is filled, the next time you leave a room, you get a curse. The curse effects makes the game harder in some ways and sometimes a little bit easier, but as you get more curses, they get more and more punishing. The game is nice enough to warn you not to reach the 4th or 5th levels because they can ruin your run. But this system adds a nice balance of having to accept curses in order to make your character stronger, while also trying to not accept too many curses and ending up dead. You need to be really careful with how you play, or I guess you can just go wild and see what happens. Visually speaking, the Hades comparisons die at the isometric view. The art style is completely different, using cel-shaded and a much darker and more bleak art style, which I've actually seen people compare to Darkest Dungeon, and that's like a really apt way to describe it. Dead Gods seems to take small bits of a lot of different roguelikes, and really that's not a bad thing. Video games have done it forever, and just think about it. We wouldn't have The Binding of Isaac without The Legend of Zelda, and we wouldn't have Zelda without the woodlands near Shigeru Miyamoto's childhood home. Which kinda leads me to the main reason I felt like I should make this video. I talked about it briefly in the intro, but what exactly is the difference between copying and being inspired by something? Well, there isn't really an actual way to describe it, but I want to make the case that Dead Gods isn't copying Hades. There is for sure some inspiration, but what sets Dead Gods apart from a game that is just a copy is all the additions that it brings to the genre. Most games that are cash grabs or copies are poorly made and don't introduce anything new. They just remake the original and name it something similar to trick people into playing it. Dead Gods at no point does this. It wears its inspirations with pride and carries them further so that it becomes its own thing. Inspiration can carry on for generations, while copies tend to die off as quickly as they came, and I don't think that's going to happen in this case. I still haven't played a ton of Curse of the Dead Gods, so this video is based purely off my early reactions, but it seemed important to make that distinction for people who may pass it off as just a clone of Hades, because it's really not. This is a perfect example of when not to judge a book by its cover. Or, I guess you can judge a book by its cover if you really like what you see. Honestly, It's just a really terrible analogy, and I want to know who the hell came up with it. But whatever. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, be sure to subscribe and check out my other videos, and I'll be back soon with another video just like this one. So, peace out, y'all. I'll catch you on the flip side.